Hello, everybody. Hopefully, you guys can see me. My phone is freezing, so it will not let me be great today. If you are having any problems with seeing me or hearing me, please let me know so that I can make sure that I am adjusting accordingly. I'm moving around a little bit because I want to make sure that the light isn't causing a problem. Well, today I am going to talk to you guys about the chaos mindset. My name is Candice Cox, and I am the founder of Khaos Incorporated. And chaos starts with a K. It stands for Keep Healing and Overcoming Struggles. And I believe that regular chaos, which starts with a C, is when you can't help acting out severely. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and then tell you more about the chaos mindset and how it applies when we are working with ourselves and also working with children or just anybody in general. So first, the chaos mindset, it goes this way. To live a life of chaos, which is keep healing and overcoming struggles, you must be willing to break free from your barriers. Free is forgive, release, embrace, and elevate. Get raw with your issues. Raw is realize, admit, work through. Reset your mind. Reset is remember every situation encourages thought. And be patient with you. Patient is pause and think. Inhale, exhale, now talk, or now tap out. So when you hear those things, you think about it and you're like, yeah, okay, that sounds good, but what does all of that mean? So, let's go through piece by piece. Like I said, regular chaos is when you can't help acting out severely. If you think about different things that have happened in your life and different times that you've had in your life where you have acted out, where you have shut down, where you have, had those moments where you just felt like you couldn't do anything but make, impulsive, rash decisions. Those are those regular chaos moments. But what we have to understand is that life happens to us all. It doesn't just happen to you. It doesn't just happen to me. It happens to everybody on an ongoing basis. And so we have to go from the mindset of chaos, where we can't help acting out severely, to chaos, where we keep healing and overcoming struggles. We have to be able, as I say, to see people with our hearts and not just see people with our eyes, because everybody has a story to tell. So when you are working with different kids and you're working with different coworkers and even working with different people within your house, one of the biggest things for you to be able to do is recognize that everybody has a story to tell. Everybody, small children, older people, middle-aged adults, everybody, because we all are who we are based off of the things that we've been through in our lives. And so, perception is everything. So if you are only looking at things from your point of view, then you're only getting one side of the story. And when you're looking at a story, it's always your side, their side, and then what's really going on. Because everybody has their own perception, and you filter that through your experiences. That's just pretty much what it is. So something that, I teach individuals is whenever you're dealing with someone, you have to understand that it's never okay for you to judge somebody just because they struggle differently than you do. That's not fair to you, and that's not fair to the people that you're encountering. Oftentimes, as people that work in the helping and healing professions, we do an amazing job of helping other people, but we do a poor job of taking care of ourselves. And so if we don't have that good self-care, if we don't have the ability to look at ourselves from the inside out and look at those filters that we are filtering things through, sometimes we may be causing more hurt to people than actually we really don't want to do that. And it happens unintentionally, it happens subconsciously, but it happens. So a skill that we can use for that is our raw skill. Raw is realize, admit, and work through. So when you're dealing with a situation, you're dealing with say for instance, you're dealing with a student, and this student is just wreaking havoc in your classroom. Or you're dealing with one of your own children, and your child is terrorizing your house, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. First and foremost, yes, you can. You can do this. You just have to change the way that you're doing things. So you have to take the time to realize that there is a problem and realize that there is an issue. And then admit, what's my role in here? What am I doing? You may not be causing the problem. You may not be the root of the problem. But if you are involved in interaction with that person, you do have a role in the issue, whatever it may be. So you have to admit that you have a role, and you have to be able to realize what your role is so that you have the ability to work through it. You have to make sure that you are paying attention to all of your biases and all of the things that you're dealing with on the inside so that you can ask yourself, am I holding this person to their expectations, or am I holding this person to my expectations? And if you realize that there's a problem and you admit your role, and as you're working through, you realize that you are holding that person to your expectations and not their expectations, you have to reset. And our reset is, remember, every situation encourages thought. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to those that you're working with for you to put your judgments onto them and for you to stunt their growth and their healing based off of how far you've made it in life. That doesn't make any sense if you really think about it. I know that, we always want to help people, and we do believe that because we have certain trainings and because we have certain, things and experiences and possibly degrees and different things of that nature, that we have all the answers, and we do not. The people that we are working with, the children that we are working with, the individuals that we are working with, they are the experts on their lives. No matter how long they've lived, if they've lived 3 years or 103 years, they have more knowledge and more experience of their situation than we could ever have. So all that we can do as the individuals that are helpers and healers, nurturers or teachers, whatever our role may be, we can help them help themselves. But the only way that we can have the ability to help them help themselves is if we recognize what's going on inside of us, and we're okay with who we are, and then we help them recognize what's going on inside of them and help them be comfortable with who they are. That's something that's very important. Oftentimes we're doing this from a textbook type of mindset. I call it the skybox. I say that, we have people that are in the skybox, and those are the people that, air quotes, got it all together. And then we have people that are on the ground floor, and those are the people that are, as I say, going through the struggle. And, people in the skybox are removed from the struggle in some way, form, or fashion. So because they're removed from the struggle, they don't really have a full grasp or understanding of what's really going on the ground floor. So they may be trying to fix things, or we may be trying to fix things that we see that are honestly surface things, because there are so many other things that are infected or infested, underneath the roots. So we have to be able to help people identify those infected or infested things that are in their lives so that they can start working through and they can figure out where they want to be, so that we can give them the tools and the knowledge that we have to help them help themselves. Something that we have to make sure that we're resetting and doing on an ongoing basis is, when we remember every situation encourages thought, we remember that, sometimes we're not mindful of the way that we are handling people. We don't take our privilege into consideration. Sometimes we are coming from our middle class homes or our upper class homes, and we're coming from, our environments where we don't hear gunshots, and, our kids can go outside and play safely and everything's okay. And then we're going and we're trying to teach wellness to kids who they heard gunshots on the way coming to school in the morning time. And, we have to be mindful of those things. And when we're being mindful of those things, we have to make sure that we are giving our babies a chance to voice how they feel. We're giving them the language to voice what's going on with them. But we also have to make sure that we are in a space where we can validate their feelings. Something that I say all the time, I tell kids, your feelings are your feelings, and they are yours to have. You can feel however you want to feel, but it's what you do with those feelings that can cause an issue. And so us as adults, we have to make sure that we are mindful of that as well. We have to make sure that, when we hear a story, or when we are in dealing with something with a child that we are working with, and this child tells us something that just literally blows our minds, or that breaks our hearts, or something that is disappointing because we're upset because their mother didn't do what we feel that they should have done, that we are not being condemning, that we are not, we're not downplaying who they are. We're not downplaying their feelings. We are not making it seem as if, what's going on with them is not important, because it is. We have to be aware, which is that reset again. We have to remember that every situation encourages thought when we're dealing with our children, so that we can make sure that we are healing and we are not harming. We have to make sure that we're not making our babies feel bad about who they are and where they come from. And we have to make sure that we are being, we're being gentle with our parents as well. Because if you think about it, your kids are products of the environments that have been created for them. So if you have broken kids that are coming to you in your classrooms, your therapy sessions, or wherever you may be, your community centers, or anywhere, those children, when you follow them home, 9 times out of 10, you have a broken parent at home as well. 1 or 2. You may have broken grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. So, you never know if these babies are coming from a toxic and traumatic environment as a whole. And then they're coming to you and they're showing up. And so they're doing the best that they can with what they have. And then they're being condemned because it doesn't meet your expectations. If you really think about that, that doesn't make sense, and it's not fair, and it's harmful. It's not helpful at all. Another one of our skills is break free. So free is forgive, release, embrace, and elevate. Forgive. Now, and Julie has said this before, that forgiveness is a really, really, really hard word. And, when I think of forgiveness, I don't think that you have to be okay with that person and what that person did to you, with you, in any way, form, or fashion. Forgiveness for me is being able to discuss it and it doesn't hurt anymore. You being able to get rid of the pain that's associated with whatever the experience is with that person or that situation. So breaking free, for educators and for people that work with children and work with other individuals, sometimes you have to forgive people for not being what you want them to be. Sometimes you have to forgive that student for just not having the capacity to give you what you're asking for. Sometimes you have to forgive that coworker for just not having the mindset to treat that child the way that you feel that child deserves to be treated. Sometimes you have to forgive yourself for holding a grudge with a child who has no ability to change what is going on with them and how they're reacting with you until they learn skills to do something different. So sometimes we have to forgive ourselves and others for not being what we want them to be when we want or need them to be something. For me, my break free moment happened when I was in college. I'm a product of a single parent home, teen parents. My parents were 16 and 17. And, some of you guys have heard me tell the story, and some of you, this is new. But, my mother had me when she was 16 years old. She did the best she could with what she had, but she was a broken kid. So as a broken kid, she broke me too. She suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, and there was a lot of verbal abuse that happened with me growing up. And once I became 16, she basically transferred her emotions and her experience from her being 16 onto me. So she started to parent me from a place of fear, which caused a huge issue with us because I rebelled against that. I wasn't living the life that she was trying to save me from. So I couldn't wrap my mind around why my mother was being so harsh toward me, why my mother was being so judgmental toward me, why my mother would say things that were just so negative and just hurtful toward me. So those things made me angry. And as a result, when I went to college, I almost got kicked out my freshman year because I was angry. And whenever someone would say something to me, I was hypervigilant. And I was the pop-off kid. I was the person that I was ready to fight because I had gone through that in my mama's house. And I would be darned if I was going to go through it again from somebody else. So I had that mind frame that I had to fight, and I had to put on this big front that I was big, bad, and tough, but on the inside I was hurt. And they put me in anger management classes because I was about to get expelled from college, and that's not what I wanted. I didn't go there for that, but I didn't know how to deal with who I was, and I didn't have people that knew how to help me deal with who I was. So one thing that I had to learn is that I had to forgive my mother. I had to forgive my mother for all of the negative things that she put and placed into me because she did the best she could with what she had. I had to forgive her for not being what I needed her to be as a mom and not what I wanted her to be as a mom. And at that point, I was able to use the R, which is release. I had to release myself from who I thought I was supposed to be. I had to release myself from who my mother had made me think that I was. I had to release myself from the patterns and the negative thought processes and the different just toxic things that I allowed in my life. I had to release myself from all of those things and do a lot of mirror work, where I looked myself in the face on a daily basis and told myself, Candice, this is not your life. This is not the way that things are supposed to go. That there is something else out there better. That there are better opportunities. And everyone doesn't think this way. I had to speak life into myself and into my situations and tell myself what I could do, what I'm capable of doing, what's going to be okay. And, constantly reset with myself and remember that no matter what I was dealing with, every situation encouraged thought so that I could actually take control over who I was and no longer be an emotional hostage to the situations that were happening in my life on an ongoing basis. Once I was able to forgive and release, then I had the ability to embrace, which is the third part of Break Free. Embrace. I had to embrace things as they were, as they are, and as they will be, with love and compassion instead of anger and hostility. And that was a very, very hard thing to do because in my mind, I had been raised to think things were a certain way, and there was a lot of shame that was associated with things when they didn't go the way that I wanted them to go, or when I thought people would be disappointed in, my story, my journey, or anything. I was disappointed in how things were. So I had to be okay with the fact that life happened, but that didn't mean that my life had to stop. And I had to be okay with where I was at that point in my life. I had to look at where I was, look at where I was at when I got to the point of starting to make that transition, and then be willing to look forward to where I was going to be. And, that's a hard process, but it took a lot of journaling. It took a lot of conversations. It took a lot of meditating. It took a lot of, things that I had to do for myself, but I was able to get to a point where I could embrace my whole story and be okay with who I am as a whole. And once I was okay with who I was as a whole, then I could elevate to a higher level of living. And the reason why is because at that point, I no longer had any shame about who I am and who I was and who I was going to be, which is the same that we have to do for, the kids that we're working with. We have to teach our babies that it is okay for them not to be okay all of the time. We can't keep building up this fantasy that, everybody is perfect, everyone is the way that they are on TV, and, all of those people are airbrushed, and they are, their faces are beat to the gods in regard to makeup artists and things like that. But when you take all of that down and all of that off, they are human just like we are, and they have hard days. And just like you as an adult, you have hard days, kids have hard days as well. So we have to make sure that we are being knowledgeable of the things that are happening with our children. But we have to make sure that for us to be knowledgeable of the things that's happening with our babies, we have to be knowledgeable about the things that's going on inside of us. That's really, really, really important. The last skill that we have is patient. Now, patient stands for pause and think. Inhale, exhale, now talk, or now tap out. Now, this is something that's very important for our children, but it's very important for us as adults as well, because oftentimes we are so busy trying to meet the goals that are put out for us in regard to schools, in regard to what our bosses are asking us for. We are weighed down by what's happening in our family lives and everything else, that we start going through the motions when we start working with the children that we're working with. And that's not fair to anywhere. That's not fair to them. That's not fair to us. I say that a lot because it's really not fair. But what we have to do is, in every encounter that we have with an individual, with a student, we have to pause and think about what's going on inside of us and inside of those people that we're interacting with. We have to take the time to inhale and exhale. Just breathe. Most of the times we don't center ourselves, and if we aren't coming from a centered place, then usually we're giving an emotional response, and our emotional responses aren't always rational. And when it happens, then ensues. And it's the can't help acting now severely chaos and not the keep healing and overcoming struggles chaos that we're looking for. So once we pause and think about what's going on inside of us and what's happening around us, and we inhale and exhale, at that point in time, we can take the moment and we can say, okay, now I can talk about this, or now I need to tap out. Sometimes we do need to tap out, you guys, and it's okay. Sometimes as parents, we need to tap out. Spouses, teachers, whatever, we need to tap out sometime, and it's okay. We are human. And so being able to be in touch with the humanness that's inside of us and being able to say, this is above what I can handle right now. I don't have the ability, the words, the language, whatever it may be. I don't have it to be able to continue with this situation without it getting out of hand. So at that point in time, you tap out so that somebody else can step in. It does not mean that you are a bad teacher. It does not mean that you are a bad parent. It does not mean that you are a bad anything. It means that you are aware of yourself and your emotions and your reactions, and you realize that how you are feeling can affect somebody else, and you admit that you're not in a good place at that moment. So your work through is for you to tap out until later, or for you to take a moment to gather your thoughts and your words so that you can have this conversation with whoever you need to have it with without it getting to a point of escalation. That's something that's huge. We have to be aware of who we are, what's going on inside of us before we reach out to help someone else. Something really quick that I use on a daily basis is I say, before you check a kid, check yourself. And, sometimes people get upset with that and they don't like to hear that. But you have to be honest with yourself. If you are having an issue with a child, you have to ask yourself, what is happening inside of me? What's going on with this kid that is triggering me, or something inside of me that is making me escalate, that is making me feel anxious, that is making me feel angry? What is causing that inside of me? One of the things that we have to make sure that we are constantly doing, when I say reset, remember every situation encourages thought. We have to constantly be aware of what's happening inside of us. Because if we are not in control of self, how can we possibly help someone else? And that's just being honest. So I know that I have went over a lot, and I have given you guys a lot. And, one thing that I am going to do is I'm going to continuously come on for the next couple of Wednesdays, and I'm going to be specific in the things that we talk about in regard to utilizing the chaos mindset. But today I just wanted to make sure that I could get on and I could touch base with you guys, and I could let you guys know what the chaos mindset is. And I could break down the skills for you today and let you see how they not only apply to you in regard to working with others, but they also apply to you within working with yourself, because that's something that's very important. I am looking around my office because I want to see, I don't have a small picture of all of my chaos kids, but I also have chaos characters. And each one of my chaos kids, they represent a certain mental health diagnoses. And I'm going to go through each kid so you can understand which kids do what. So you can have an understanding of, okay, when this happens, then that happens. Oh, I found a card. So here are my chaos kids. So first and foremost, this is, I hope you guys can see it, this one on the end, her name is Nevaeh. And Nevaeh is 17 years old, and Nevaeh has post-traumatic stress disorder. Nevaeh is a victim of child abuse. And so she's also a victim of sexual abuse. Nevaeh is the kid that comes to your classroom, and she's the kid that is disconnected. She's having intrusive thoughts. She didn't sleep well last night because she was having night terrors, and she is waiting on the other shoe to fall. So she's waiting for a problem to happen, and as soon as she feels that she is in danger, she pops off. This is Cristina. Cristina has oppositional defiant disorder. Cristina comes from a family where they were making meth. She ends up going into the system. She's the oldest of 5 kids, and she's angry. She does not respect authority. She learned at a young age that adults were not there to help her, so she had to figure it out on her own. So she's the kid that comes to your classroom and she's not listening to nothing that you have to say because she doesn't believe that you can help her because all her life she's had to take care of herself. This here is Kyra. Kyra is Hispanic and Kyra has ADD. I also have ADD. And, Kyra spends a lot of time getting in trouble because she's constantly being redirected. She's constantly not remembering things that she has to do. She's getting in trouble because she did her homework, but she didn't. Oh, I'm sorry about that, you guys. She didn't do, her work, so she's in trouble because she doesn't know what happened to it. And that's constantly an issue for her. You have Tia, and Tia has anxiety. And so Tia is the kid. She does really, 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 really good in school. She's a people pleaser. She wants everybody to love her, but she worries about everything. Whenever something happens, she's worrying about what bad is going to happen. What else? How can I do this? Everything has to be planned. And she's easily agitated when there's a lot going on and she doesn't understand what's happening around her. So she's the kid that's, if there's a lot happening around her, she's going to get up and yell in the middle of the classroom for everybody to shut up and stop talking. So that's something that's, do you have those kids? Because I know I've been this kid before. This is Jen, and Jen is transgender. Jen was born Jennifer. And so, Jennifer was young, and Jennifer realized that there's something different inside of me. I don't feel like I should have on pink dresses and ribbons. This isn't what I like. I don't feel like I'm a girl. And so Jen identifies as a boy. That's why as Jen grew up and became a teenager, Jen started to identify as a boy. And this causes a lot of problems for Jen. Jen is depressed, and Jen gets bullied in school, and Jen's father is a police officer, and he doesn't understand who he is. And so he has a lot of problems at home. This is Xavier, and Xavier is our fatherless child, and he has ADHD, so he's hyperactive as well. And so he's the kid that's up and down in the classrooms a lot. He's the kid that's talking over people. He's the kid that's banging on the bottom of the chair, kicking somebody's chair, flipping someone's hair. But he also, because he has some abandonment issues, because his father's not in his life, he's easily angered. And so he's the kid that's quick to fight, and he's the kid that's quick to argue because he has so much pent-up aggression and anger and pain inside of him, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. So anger is the way that he gets it out. This last one is Aaron. And Aaron has Asperger's. He's on the autism spectrum. And so Aaron is phenomenal. He is amazing academically. He's so brilliant and smart. And he's really a cool kid, but nobody gets to really see it because he's socially awkward. He doesn't really understand the social cues and things of that nature. So that when kids are trying to joke and laugh with him, he doesn't get it. He says things that are inappropriate. He gets fixated on certain things, and people make fun of him. And teachers get agitated because he's not doing what they need him to do. So these are the chaos kids. And what I do is I utilize the chaos kids to help people see that they can live their life beyond labels. Yes, these kids all have a mental health diagnosis, but what the major thing is that all of these kids have struggles. And so when you take away the diagnosis and you just look at the characteristics of the behaviors that the children are dealing with, you can see yourself. And not only can you see yourself, you can also see the people that you deal with on an everyday basis, whether it's as a child or as an adult. This is what I utilize to help people see that we all have struggles. We all have different things that we're dealing with. And it's okay not to be okay sometimes. So once you can recognize yourself inside of these chaos kids, at that point in time, you figure out what's going on with you. What did you need? What was I missing? And then you can take the time to give that back to your chaos kids. I think that's just something that's very important. We are constantly looking at different ways and different models on how to teach kids about toxic stress and how to teach kids about trauma and, how to make sure that we are ready to handle them so that, we can help them. But the major thing that we have to understand is that we cannot do anything for anybody until we do things for ourselves. We have to make sure that we are in a good space. And in that good space, we have to recognize that we are far from perfection. So there are always things that we are going to be working on. So we have to make sure that as we are interacting with the children that we're dealing with on a daily basis, that we are being fluid And we are being aware of our own needs to change and grow. That we are aware that we are all on the chaos spectrum, from chaos where we can't help acting out severely to chaos where we keep healing and overcoming struggles. We're all on that spectrum, and you just have to figure out where you are. I am a clinician. I've been a clinician for years. I've been doing this work for 17 years now, and I am still a work in progress. I will be a work in progress forever, because every day I learn something new about myself. But the good thing about it is I'm at a point where when I learn something new about myself, I'm able to realize that this does affect me. I'm able to admit where it affects me in my life, and then come to a place where I can work through it. And that's something that's very important. So I'm going to restate the skills one more time. And that is, if you want to live a life of chaos, which is keep healing and overcoming struggles, you must be willing to break free from your barriers. Forgive, release, embrace, and elevate. Get raw with your issues. Realize, admit, and work through. Reset your mind. Remember, every situation encourages thought. And be patient with you. Pause and think. Inhale, exhale, now talk or now tap out. It is not an easy thing for you to do. It is something that takes work. But you have to ask yourself, if I am in a position where I am working with others, and I am in a position where I am teaching. Okay, you guys. Hopefully you're still there. So, as I say, this technology won't let me be great. But getting back to what I was saying, we have to make sure that we are being mindful of ourselves. We have to make sure that we are being mindful of the things that we are taking in on a daily basis. We have to make sure that we are mindful of where our toxic stress and where our trauma lies. You may not have a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, but that does not mean that you don't have things in your life that are traumatic. It does not mean that you don't have traumatic stress or toxic stress. It does not mean that you don't have things that are going on that make you anxious, things that are going on that make you be fearful of what's going to happen. And you have to be aware of those things. And it's okay. So I'm going to end this with telling you that, I am thankful to be able to be in this group, and I'm thankful to be able to work with such amazing individuals who all have the heart and the ability to help each other, help ourselves. And if we can't learn anything else from the chaos mindset, I hope that you're able to learn that life happens, but that does not mean that life has to stop. We all have the ability to keep healing and overcoming struggles. We can do this, you guys. I look forward to speaking with you next week. And if you have any suggestions on specifics that you would like to hear me talk about regarding the chaos mindset, please leave it in the comment section below, and I will make sure that I address those things when I come back and talk to you guys next week. I hope you guys have learned something from the chaos mindset. I hope you guys are able to integrate this into your lives, and integrate this into the practices that you do on an everyday basis. And I hope that from today forward, you yourself personally work toward living a life of chaos, because we got this. Thank you, everybody.